Yaga yaga. I just wanted to touch on this topic again. There might be another video as well. I just wanted to flesh out some of the things I was saying in my last video. So I was making some points, and as I do these off the cuff, sometimes they might not be 100% accurate, and they might not always be clear to what I'm trying to get across in an eloquent, succinct way. So when I was saying I've not experienced direct racism, I have done, but the racism that I've experienced have been more covert, have been more under the radar. I have experienced, maybe someone's in a car and they do funny posturing, or a car driving past me on the high street at night and they yell something out of the car. Or maybe there was a time when I was playing football and the crowd were jeering, saying certain words that had happened. But usually as I walk around, in the inner city, in the cities I'm in London, it's not something that would happen readily. Now, just to describe London to anyone who's watching this from somewhere in the world, what it's like. London is very much its own thing. It's like, I've never been to New York, but they say the People's Republic of Brooklyn. So New York is like its own thing, as in there's nowhere in America, United States, that's like New York. New York would be a place where lots of different communities, different cultures come together and hub. That's exactly what London is like. We have, a mixture of all different religions, all different cultures. We have lots of different areas which, may highlight a specific type of people. When I say that, I mean, you might be in Tower Hamlets and there's a lot of Bengali people, a lot of people from Desh, a lot of brown people, a lot of South Indian people. You may be in another part of London, Brixton, Peckham, Pecknam. You have the Jamaican community, the Yardis, the Nigerians, the Ghanaians, the Malis. You have the Chinese communities. There's places in South London again, but you might get the Latino community. You get I can't remember what the place is at the top of my head right now, but you have a lot of Colombians, a lot of Colombian bars. Even in Tottenham nowadays, you have a lot of Brazilian groceries, special butchers. Yeah, so London is a mixture. You can go, we've got Chinatown in the centre of London. So there's all these different places where people come together. You have one type of person living next to another type of person, and we all talk the same. We look different, but we sound the same. Yeah, there's an advert where there's a type of whiskey, and there's a black guy and a white guy. They both say at the same time, grouse and ginger, and they look at each other like, huh? Like, I said that who was that? And that's basically what it is. You can look. Hold on, let me just get past this bit. It's a bit busy bit of town. You can go down to south, in the south of London, or even the East End pub, and you'd be next to someone. You alright, geezer? You alright, mate? How you doing, mate? You alright, brother? And one would be Caucasian, one would be black, but literally there will be no difference in culture in terms of how they look, how they talk, how they're dressed. The difference will obviously be the ethnicity and where their dad was born and what they grew up on. But if you were born here in London, a lot of times we assimilate with one another. And that was the kind of point I was trying to put across when I was saying that. And I would be in a good position to speak about this because I've had quite a broader experience than most people, and I will make another video about this. It's not an advantage to be the one that's been allowed in. So that's another thing I wanted to get this point across. It's not an advantage of mine to say, oh, I'm the one who is cultured like a Londoner, or I'm the one that's the only black person, or the one that's been allowed, or being the good, so-called good black person, because that doesn't exist. Wherever you go, whatever you do, okay? In the West, in the UK, you will be treated different if you're black. That's just it's my experiences of a black man, but I have friends of all communities, and they are honest to tell me, how it is. I've had a really good friend who his brother works for the police, and in the police he's told me what has been said and what gets said on a daily basis. That I remember a time when myself and that friend were stopped in a car, and he told me to give him anything I had, and to give him the keys, and to change seats, and we did it in time. And as we got there, the police let us off because it was a Caucasian white guy who was driving and who had anything on him, some weed or whatever it was. So that just shows to you the kind of world we live in. And in terms of types of companies, I've worked in creative industries. I've worked for a food company, popcorn business, an art company. I've worked for a music business, a massive, big company in the west of London, with the poshest offices, with the coffee shops inside the office, and the cafeteria, the sort of speciality bakeries and cafes in the company, in the actual office. With a bar that comes on a Friday with music, so it turns into a nightclub in the actual office. I've worked for those kind of jobs, and I've worked for white collar and now blue collar, and and I know that there's been certain times where, as a black person, you might give your offer to get a flat, and the offer will be the exactly same as the English person, a white person, and they'll give it to a white person. And I'm sure if I send my resume exactly the same qualifications with a African name, Adiola, Abiola, Segun, some long African spiritual name, and I send a name that says John Smith, 9 times out of 10, 8 times out of 10, even if the African name has higher qualifications, the English name gets selected, right? So how my experience has been indirect forms of prejudice, of racism, where in a company, even though I'll have a specific role, I'll be given jobs that you may look at it as beneath me, even though there's nothing beneath. But if you get what I mean, in terms of there will be jobs that nobody does or no one wants to take care of, and because I'm the only black person in that office, they gave those jobs to me. Now, even if you look around your office, you may be watching this, you should be thinking that, if you're an ally, why isn't there more ethnic people here? Why are there more black people here? Why are there more brown people here? Right? So people tend to hire people that are like them, and then when they get in a position of power and they get people that are not like them, for some reason something comes upon them where they feel that they can use this as an advantage to exercise some kind of position of power on top of someone, where rather than just do whatever they need to do, they get that black person to do it. And it's in 2026, when our parents had to deal with, when my mum would say the thing, they would never accept you. When they were here, I think it was the late 50s, early 60s, people would shout things readily in their face. They'd struggle to get jobs, houses, all kinds of things was going on here. If you look at the film Babylon, I think it is, yeah, with Oswald, I think that was in the 80s, and it had even got better for that. So imagine how it would have been 20 years. So every decade or two, it gets better, but we're still dealing with it now. And I feel like it's come a bit more to the forefront with these events. like what happened in the BAFTAs. But the monster lives on, and it's very, very strong. And we're battling this monster every day. We're dealing with these transgressions every day. And it can be as simple as, someone calling you a name out the car window, or just a bus driver who sees you at the bus stop and doesn't stop, or a taxi who sees you put your hand up and he doesn't stop, or Uber driver who may cancel your trip because you're ordering from a predominantly black area. All of these things happen. So it's when I'm saying I'm lucky, I'm not really lucky. I'm not better off. All I'm trying to explain is just being treated equally, given the equal opportunity as everyone else, being treated like everybody else, and living in a kind of civilized utopia. It's my thoughts.